Alright guys, welcome back to game number 2 here for CEVO season number 5, Sneaking Assassins versus No Earthspirit. Game number 1, pretty squarely going the way of Sneaking Assassins. They lost the first blood, but other than that, they were never really out of control of the game. We're already pretty well into the draft. The Viper, the Racer coming out. Nothing out of the ordinary going on here. Bans that we would completely... If you had to predict bans coming out of North-South American teams in the current meta, if you had to pick picks for the first 8 heroes that were going to be drawn, this is almost in order statistically what you'd expect. So really, I don't even know that I have to explain a lot of this to our audience. The Viper and the Skywrath Mage coming out. The slow from the Viper can help set up the Skywrath Mage. Skywrath Mage can provide vision with the concussive shot to help the Viper catch up and land on his ultimate. The Razor coming out with the Earthshaker. Earthshaker is going to be able to block people into range of that Razor's damage steal and also within range of that Eye of the Storm. The Earthshaker also providing pretty strong high ground defense and the Echo Slam for the mid-game tower defenses and or team fights, specifically lane team fights, not as strong in Roshan. I think everybody here got that. Oh, by the way, my name's Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can catch me at GotCowDota on Twitter, and you can catch me here, obviously, casting CEVO. You can catch me tomorrow casting for Join Dota with Codal Guy from High Ground TV. High Ground TV, also where I'm editor-in-chief of their editorial department, put up a article today on mana management, so if you ever find yourself playing your Dota and a little bit less in way of mana than you would like, in lane, you might want to go ahead and give that a shot, or give that a read, I guess I should say. I am solo casting here today. No stats, no co-caster. Just going to go ahead and drill through it. So it's going to be a little bit more laid back of a presentation than we normally have, and I hope everybody enjoys. All right, you're going to see just a little bit of lag as I switch back over to Twitch TV stream. There we go. All right. All right, so the Shadow Shaman going to be banned, and the Centaur going to be banned by No Earthspirit. The Centaur is actually kind of a weird ban. You don't normally see him banned out. He is very strong against the Razor because you'll have that Stampede to try and make sure that nobody's going to have their damage stolen. And he also is going to provide additional tower push alongside that Viper in a very similar mechanism that Viper is going to be able to provide tower push on with that physical damage that comes out of return. So I can see it. I could certainly see Sneaking Assassins grabbing that, but as far as I know, I don't recall, even when Centaur was very popular, not that long ago, I don't recall IX Mike playing that much Centaur out of the offlane. It just didn't really come up that much. I don't really know that ban was necessary, but if No Earthspirit is going to get an additional hero that worries about being kited, somebody like a Life Stealer or an Alchemist or something along those lines in terms of farming carry, I can't believe that Brewmaster slid through and No Earthspirit didn't. Now, that seems like the ban, right? Centaur War Runner doesn't seem like the ban to me. Brewmaster seems like the ban to me, especially because Brewmaster was played in the very, very questionable off-lane position last game, and No Earthspirit still couldn't handle it. So it does not seem like they know how to handle that hero, especially when they had a Skywrath Mage already with that long Ancient Seal Silence, which just typically wrecks a Brewmaster, just sends him back crying home to his mama. Now they don't have any strong silences, nor anybody who traditionally builds silence with an Orchid. The Doombringer's already banned out. The Death Prophet's banned out. The Skywrath Mage's already been picked up. And the Shadow Shaman, another nice counter to the Brewmaster because of that long hold with the Shackles. You can often kill a Brewmaster during the duration of that Shackles in combination with the Hex. They ban that out themselves. So they have an Earthshaker who has a nice long stun in terms of its distance, but not in terms of its duration. The stun that Earthshaker brings is very, very effective, but not in a way that really scares the Brewmaster. It's effective at forcing opponents to move along certain pathways. It's effective at keeping opponents split from each other, at making sure their lines are chaos and that they cannot escape through the threads of the battle. The Earthshaker himself doesn't really perma-stun that effectively in the middle of a fight or in the middle of an initiation if the Brewmaster is going to blink in and just pop on him. I don't think we're going to see that Brewmaster in the offlane again, but we could. It worked out well for them last time, so I don't necessarily know why they'd fix it if it ain't broke. It's just a really risky position to put the Brewmaster into. I expect to see the Viper probably taking the mid, the Brewmaster probably taking safe lane, Vengeful Skywrath supporting, but because they did just offlane that Brewmaster, like I said, there's really no calling this one. And there's nothing No Earthspirit can do to call it either, because Nyx Assassins have already proven that they're happy doing really off-the-wall stuff with this draft. And they're drafting very similarly as well. All right. No Earthspirit are thinking very carefully this time about their 4th pick. Last time they just kind of blew through all their picks and they felt pretty confident, moved in for that first blood, and boy, they just sat back and let it get handed to them last game after that point. They really didn't show any signs of life at all. They didn't show any indication that they thought pacing was important. And pacing is extremely important in this level of gameplay. It's really hard to win a game, especially a game against the Sneaky Nyx Assassins, who are so well known for a heads-up strategy where they distract you from their farming carry by applying pressure. They're so well known for that style for Protect 1 that you really, it's really the burden is on their opponents typically to be aggressive. And the Sneaky Nyx Assassins, when they lose, they often lose because their opponents are more aggressive than the Nyx Assassins can handle. All right. Looking at the bans that are about to be coming out here, let's take a look. We've got a Lich off lane potentially here with an Earthshaker Lion taking the supports and Razor taking the mid with a farming carry yet to come. We could also be saying a good old-fashioned Crit Shaker. That wouldn't work out so well against the Viper if the Viper goes mid, but if the Brewmaster goes mid, Earthshaker could handle that. I'm not positive that this is the game to go Crit Shaker, to go with that carry Earthshaker style or that semi-carry Earthshaker style build. I do expect probably we're going to see a Lich off lane, or maybe a little more cheeky of a laning configuration out of no Earthspirit than traditional.
10 seconds remaining.
But yeah, either way, Sneaky Nyx Assassins taking their sweet time, going down to 6 seconds of reserve time. They're actually going to ban out the Tidehunter. I don't really think that ban... I don't feel like Tidehunter was going to come out for no Earthspirit, but if Sneaky Nyx Assassins don't want to play against it, they don't want to play against it. I also don't really feel like the Tidehunter would have done that much against Sneaky Nyx Assassins. Yes, it would have set up, with the blink on the Tide, it would have set up for the Earthshaker to come in, to get the ulti, and the Lich to get the Ice Blast. But the Sneaky Nyx Assassins, they're looking to be the initiators all the time anyway. They're looking to keep their opponents on the back feet, and a Tidehunter would be reactive, but you can play around that, especially because the Tidehunter on the Radiant side doesn't have access to those Ancients, doesn't have a catch-up mechanic. He's got one valve that if the water runs dry in it, he's completely without recourse. Maybe if his supports have been stacking the jungle, he can go there, but his Blink Decker can really very effectively be slowed down on the Radiant side.
5 seconds remaining.
Sneaky Nyx Assassins are down to 6 seconds on this pick.
5 seconds remaining.
They're going to grab a Gyrocopter, so that is going to be that offlane Brewmaster once again. With a Gyrocopter, once, you could see very hard late game. The Gyrocopter windows in really weird ways. He comes into the game and then he falls out of the game. Then he comes into the game and falls out of the game again. Unlike most heroes who have a semi-linear or some of them an exponential grow forward in terms of their carry potential, and most supports where they have a semi-linear or exponential fall off in terms of their impact potential, the Gyrocopter has a staggered sort of
5 seconds.
gateway into carry. He starts off extremely strong with Rocket Barrage, or potentially the homing missile build that's becoming more popular right now, and then he usually kind of falls off while he needs to get up some more basic items, some life typically, to help sustain him in these fights. And until then, he can't really assert himself, and he's really vulnerable to two-man ganks. Any two heroes who can suck up that Rocket Barrage or stun him out before he can really get it off. And at that point in time, the Gyrocopter will try to get up some survivability, usually something like a Helm of the Dominator or a Black King bar, maybe both, and then he'll be very scary again, but he doesn't have damage output. So as the other heroes start to get their survivability up, the Gyrocopter kind of level off again. He can be effective in team fights, but he is not quite as scary, and he's not the push machine he's known to be. And then, usually around that 35-40 minute mark, as he starts to get up some damage, that's when, bam, all of a sudden you're looking at one of the best pushers in the game, one of the highest damage output heroes in the game, and you've hit full hard carry mode. I don't know if the Sneaky Nyx Assassins are really planning on going that deep with it. They're going to be up against a Silencer, who's another popular pick. I'm surprised we haven't seen banned or picked so far yet this series, but he is being picked up here. All right. We are moving into game number 2 of this 2-game series between the Sneaky Nyx Assassins and No Earthspirit. This is game number 2. Game number 1 did go to the Nyx Assassins in a very dominating performance, and we will see if we have, oh my goodness, and Ike's Mike talking about the the Union Gaming thing. Ice Mike has been he's been a little he's been a little bit of a joker today in making fun of Ban Earth quite a bit in the lobby. So we'll see if this turns into, if this stays as friendly, competitive flaming, or if this turns into straight up I hate you flaming. I'm not positive where this is going. You can never tell when you're seeing IX Mike chat with the other team. You can never tell if it's going to be like, oh, these guys are friends and they're kidding around, or oh, this is going to turn into something that I have to step into so that there's not too much cursing on my stream. Usually stays pretty professional. Don't have that big of a problem with it. We do have a disconnect here, and we are going to be wading through it. I appreciate your guys' patience as we move in. All right, and I'll take this opportunity to run through some of our players. We're going to have Fluff and stuff flying around on that Skywrath Mage. Ice Mike is going to be reprising his role in the off-lane Brewmaster. TC is going to be making it sick on the Viper. Lust, otherwise known as One Day at a Time, is going to be hanging out here on the Vengeful Spirit. And Ush is going to be farming out that Gyrocopter. Down here on the Ban Earth side, we are going to have the Earthshaker played by CSO. Glacius is going to be on that Lion, throwing out the spikes. Fan of Soyan is going to be making it quiet on the Silencer. A is going to be hanging out and chilling around on that Lich. Of course, we also are going to have Alexis on, I'm trying to remember who the last pick there was. It's a Vengeful Spirit. No, that's Vengeful Spirit is on the Nyx Assassins. Trying to remember who that last pick is. It is Razor. Razor is going to be that last pick, I believe, if I recall correctly, which I'm not sure I do, but I think it's a Razor. Or we'll have the little memory test going on right now, guys. All right, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about what the Nyx Assassins typically do, since they are, in terms of their early game movements, usually a fairly predictable team. They like to smoke up, run down, ward here, give Ix Mike plenty of vision, ward here, or somewhere in this general region. And then split up their separate ways. If they get a first blood, great. If not, Ice Mike has plenty of vision. They've recently given up on the blocking of camps as much. They used to, before TI4, they used to block camps just about every single game. Now they like to drop wards around here instead to give more gank vision, or more rather anti-gank vision. A lot more safety vision for Ice Mike, and I think that would be the right call for this Brewmaster, because he does not have an escape, and he does have the ability to dodge with that Drunken Brawler. He does have the ability to Thunderclap and try to run away, but all things said and done, he is not, oh boy, Steam issues. He's not a traditional offlaner for a reason. We'll say that. We will go with that one. But we're having some Steam issues for one of our players, and hopefully we'll be able to get that player in pretty soon here. Talking about the way last game, Earthspirit really just did not. They weren't active at all. They moved into their opponent's jungle, much the same way that I just pointed out that Nyx Assassins almost certainly will. And then they just didn't do anything. They just kind of hung around and waited for it to be over. That's not going to be a strategy that's going to work out for them this game. They are going to be heavily outcarried by the Gyrocopter alone, pretty much. But Gyrocopter plus the Viper, the VS is a support that scales in the late game extremely effectively, because you do have the Vengeance Aura, which scales up percent based. That percent based is going to be coming in, meaning that the base damage that you're going to have for heroes as it grows, especially as they add stats near the end of the game, or stat items to help raise their base damage, is going to be, well, unlike the Luna, for example, who grows in integers. You get a set amount of bonus damage, and that never changes. So you level it up in the early game, and great. It's a huge amount of damage relative to the amount of damage that you do. But once you actually get into the late game, it's a very minimal amount of damage relative to the damage that you normally do. The Vengeful Spirit is the opposite. In the early game, a couple percent really doesn't make that much difference, because nobody's hitting very hard. And then into the late game, everybody's hitting much harder, and it's the same percentage of that damage, meaning the absolute amount of damage that you're adding is much more effective. And that does help the Vengeful Spirit. That, and the fact that she has a Black King bar response with the swap, and she has a very nice stun. And negative armor is also a very important aspect of late game potential for teams. Vengeful Spirit as a support works pretty well into the late game. And we are going to go ahead and see an aggressive trialing coming out of this. I think this makes a lot more sense than what they did last game, which was throw that IX Mike into a suicide lane. It worked out for them. I'm not saying it didn't, but it is not it's not nearly as effective as I think this will be. A one-on-one matchup for the Brewmaster, even if it's a one-on-one matchup which does not include the mid-rune access, should be much stronger than a one-on-3 matchup. And he will be matched up against the Earthshaker. So, that, like I had said, this could really go either way. Earthshaker should be able to handle that, but they're both kind of mana dependent, and they're both kind of dependent on bottles, usually if they run in the mid. Ooh, that has been pinged out. That ward has been seen by the Viper, and they are very aware. The magic missile is going to be going out here. Fluff and Stuff doing some auto attacks along with Lust. Lust is going to be trying to come up here. The high ground is going to prevent vision, and they will not be able to follow out on A. A is going to chill himself away and try to get a little bit of heals, presumably. Is he going to pop a salve? Is he going to need a tingle, or is he just going to hang out? He wants to do a sacrifice, I assume. Yeah, he's waiting to make sure that he's out of dodge before he goes and grabs that sacrifice as a skill. Now he's going to go ahead and pull it out to give this mid lane a small advantage, and he's going to head back toward that bottom lane where Ush is currently sitting by himself. Fluff and Stuff and One Day at a Time are going to go ahead and smoke up and try this again, but this time with TC around as well. They're going to rotate through. They're going to end up bumping into the Lich here if they continue on this path, and Lich is going to pop up a ward. Earthspirit's already lost one, and that ward actually hurts them tremendously right now. So it means that they're going to completely be caught off guard by this smoke rotation. Spider Sense is tingling here for Earthspirit, but it's a little bit too late. Glacius is now realizing the error of his ways. He's going to trade stuns with the VS. Ush trying to throw out that Rocket Barrage. It's going to be soaked up by a bunch of creeps. Glacius will be the first blood. Nice rotation coming out of the Nyx Assassins, and once again, this ward really helped them out. As they came through just as it was dropped, which was the optimal timing for them, Earthspirit felt completely comfortable by the fact that they had vision and they had a hero on this pathway. So they figured, oh, there's no way anything's going to be coming down through there. Peace of mind. Yada, yada, yada. And there we go. First blood coming out in the mid lane. Alexis is trying to scare off this Viper with 28 stolen damage, but Viper can still orb block. He can still feel pretty comfortable doing whatever he wants to do. Up in the top lane, the Brewmaster doing very well for himself. He's sitting on top of our last hits denies, but the equilibrium is out of his way now, so we should see a little bit of deny going the way of the Earthshaker. Meanwhile, down here, we are going to have another rotation out of Fluff and Stuff denied here in the mid lane, and they're going to rotate back down around. They're doing a very roam-heavy support squad, which you kind of need to do. There's going to be a pause and a disconnect coming out of A this time on the Lich. Yeah. We have been having a lot of troubles here for Earthspirit in way of their connection. Hopefully they'll be able to reconnect here pretty shortly. This is 2 players now that have been having these connection issues. But back to what I was saying, the Skywrath Mage really does, in some ways, need to be as a support a much more roaming heavy support than most. So he's so level dependent that if he hangs out in lane, he will fall behind in levels. He won't get that Mystic Flare up as quickly as you want. His damage output through the mid game is going to be a little bit stunted, and you're going to give your opponents a 2 or 3 minute window to really just use your mouth like a big green toilet. Is what it comes down to. You're going to give your opponents a window to realize their support Skywrath Mage couldn't level fast enough. This is the time to go. Let's go ahead and shove it down their throats, move into them, be very, very aggressive, and make sure that the Skywrath never comes into the level-heavy mode that he's very dependent on. If you do rotate and you rotate successfully with a Skywrath, then you can avoid that windowing because you're going to be getting a little bit of experience from the lane, but you're also going to be keeping your opponents from leveling by killing them and getting a little bit of levels off of them yourself. That will help you window at the exact same time that your opponents are windowing and keep your opponents from getting that 2 to 3 minute moment where they are over-leveled compared to where that Skywrath needs to be relative to them. Now, Skywrath, it doesn't matter how the Skywrath is leveling in terms of the clock. It matters how the Skywrath is leveling in terms of his opponents. And that's the key. All right. We are going to have the reconnect here coming out of the Lich. Taking a look at some of our items. We've got brown boots on 2 for each team. Basilius is going to be up on the Gyrocopter. Razor is going with a good old-fashioned Wraith Band. Probably into an Aquila. And here's that gank-heavy rotation that we're talking about. Through that whole pause, Skywrath is hanging out here. Vengeful is just going to give it away as well. And Lich is still just leveling exclusively, basically, on this sacrifice. Trying to help out his mid lane, which is having a little bit of difficulty. The Razor is It's doing all right. The Viper is doing pretty well for himself, though. They're going neck and neck, but they're going neck and neck with the Lich denying a creep every wave, basically. Or every other wave. Lich is coming up very, very far. Not great coordination out of these two, and TC's just going to be able to walk away. I'm not sure why they didn't move up. The two blue man should have had a little more syncopation there. Courier's going to come down. That golden baby Roshan bringing in something. One Tango left on the Viper. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we are going to have some aggression here. Fanasoyan is going to be taking a fair amount of damage. She's going to throw out that nice stun coming out of Glacius, and that might save Fanasoyan. Maybe not, though. The stun from the Gyrocopter is going to land a concussive shot, providing vision and damage. And a nice block coming out of Glacius will not be enough to save the Silencer, who ran out at Fluff and Stuff for some reason instead of going up through the jungle this way. Lion was trying to protect him. And I'm not sure why he didn't take advantage of that protection, to be honest. Because it was a very bold sacrifice from that support. Saying, you can have my life. There's no reason for me to die here. But I might be able to get the Silencer out. Ix Mike is going to go down.
That was no shock.
There's something happened in this top lane that we didn't see, because these two are having a lot of jabs at each other in the chat. Presumably, Earthshaker had some sort of a weird interaction with a stun on Ix Mike, is what I'm assuming, and he wasn't sure what happened. Or maybe Ix Mike did something really, really ridiculous, a misclick of some sort that cost him, in the end, his life. He did end up dying there. Gyrocopter is going to get another kill down here in the bottom lane, and this aggressive tri-lane is really working out for the Nyx Assassins. Once again, and then I flash away the mid lane just before we see a kill here, but it will be a double, it looks like. TC coming in here is missing 42 health, or 42 of his damage. One more auto attack ought to bring him down. He's down to 40 health, but he's not quite going to be in reach. Now down here in the bottom lane, some additional aggression coming out as Glacius is trying to defend on this tower down below half health. We're going to see a TP going in top and TP going into the mid. Any lane could be a powder keg of excitement any moment. I'm going to make sure to try and not miss any additional action here as TC is forced out of lane. I don't expect this mid lane to be the place where we're going to see the most action because TC is so low. Ix Mike moving in, trying to get anything he can, and going to miss the kill bottom. As CSO is not going to follow up on that aggression. Yeah, TC is trying to heal up. At this point in time, he might have enough health that he feels confident, and that could be very dangerous for him. This Lich still hanging out in the mid lane, and I don't know that this is really doing for Earthspirit what they need. And they're losing out in their farming lane. They're also going to lose out that tower, and that's an important tower for the Radiant side. Much more important for that Radiant team than this tower is for the Dire team. Dire have a lot of fairly nice towers, as they have a lot of nice things, basically. And if you break one of them, they still have other nice things. But this tower for the Dire is pretty much useless. You use it to TP out for smoke rotations and maybe to the secret shot. But other than that, if you could deny it, you really should. Viper's going to go down, but we're also going to see CSO go down here. Ix Mike and Nyx Assassins just taking blood literally everywhere on the map. Every lane just dropping over and over again. And Ix Mike is on top of the last hits. So that solo one-on-one engagement, not something that the Earthshaker has been very comfortable managing. I don't think that that's something to do with the heroes. I really think that comes down to this Earthshaker's having a little bit of trouble laning up against the Brewmaster. Brewmaster is difficult to lane against, but there are a lot of stuns and a lot of potential for escape in a one-on-one matchup. Nice stun coming out of Glacius, but they know where he is. He is going to have to TP away, and Fanasoyan is going to be going down once again. Alexis is going to TP down here. I just don't know what he's planning on doing, quite honestly, at this stage. Gyrocopter's just... Ooh, Fluff and Stuff getting really low. He's just going to grab a regen rune. That's fortuitous. They didn't have vision of... Yeah, they did have vision of that. No, they didn't have vision of that. In the meantime, Brewmaster is going to go down once again. CSO, just basically every time he comes in the lane, he just runs straight at Ix Mike. In the mid lane, we're going to have some additional action. As the Lich is taking now some damage, he's going to have to back up. And Fluff and Stuff and TC now backing up away from the Razor. Bottom lane, it looks like we're going to have some action potentially. As Ush is getting very low, but he's going to go in anyway. Fanasoyan getting lower. That ultimate is going to be walked out of by Phantom Soyan. It does not matter. Glacius trying to get in for some more auto attacks. Ush hiding in the Fog of War. Very nice movement coming out of Ush. And now there's going to be the swap. I don't know. I feel like Les thought that there was going to be more follow-up from the Gyrocopter, but there is not. He is going to be stunned out, and he should be going down here. Oh, the magic missile will secure the kill because Fluff and Stuff's rotation was perfectly timed.
Tower is under attack.
If you're no Earthspirit right now, you've got to be kicking yourself. They just let 2 heroes walk away from that lane with less than 100 health. And they are now sitting at 4 and 10. In terms of the top net worth, 4 of the top 5 sitting on the Nyx Assassins, and no Earthspirit just do not have a response for the Nyx Assassins' overall playstyle. Up in the top lane, Ice Mike just sitting here free farming because the Earthshaker's not comfortable moving out with his blade integration, which he's been using so far. And this ward down here, just recently placed, is going to get plenty of vision for that Lich. Skywrath Mage is going to try to back up. Nice ward, saved a life. Might also get a kill here now that they know that the Lich is there. Gyrocopter's sitting in the fog of war. He's got the missile coming in. There's the stun. Ush is thinking about moving in. He decides not to. He doesn't have enough backup, and now A knows exactly where he is. He is pinging him out. Meanwhile, the Viper is going to get a kill here in the mid lane, and he's going to back out of the tower. This re-engagement is going to be coming down here in the bottom lane, where Lich is going to throw out his ulti on one hero, does no bounces. Magic Missile now hitting Vanasoyan along with the negative armor. There's going to be the Primal Split coming out of Ice Mike, the call down coming out of the Gyrocopter, and this should be all she wrote for A. It's going to be very hard for him to get away from all those aspects along with the rest of the team. The Cyclone is going to catch the Earthshaker up in there, who does have an Echo Slam in 15 seconds, but it does not look like, well, he might actually be able to get away. He's very far away from getting his Blink Dagger, though. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Ice Mike in terms of his Blink Dagger. He's only about 600 away.
Has fallen.
750. TC, getting, he's kind of far. Well, let's see what he's got in the courier coming out. He has his treads coming out, so. TC sitting pretty far away from his mechanism. Razor sitting farther away from the mechanism, though, and also not sitting on treads. We are only at 9 minutes into this game, and already a almost 7,500 gold lead and about 4,000 experience lead. The aggression coming out of the Nyx Assassins has just been too much. There we go. Ush is going to try to move in here on A. Call down is going to be there as well. Razor is there. Ush does not really care, though. He's going to throw out the homing missile, then immediately switch targets over to the Razor. Razor taking some of his damage. He's going to turn this around. Ush maybe getting a little bit too cocky. Does not end up getting the kill here. And A is going to be protected by Glacius along with Alexis. Oh, a nice reaction from No Earthspirit, and Nyx Assassins maybe getting a little over rambunctious and a little bit too confident at this stage. That Gyrocopter is probably not going to window. The big global silence coming out, but that's just going to mean that he's going to be beat to death the old-fashioned way.
Think of it as a new beginning.
Yeah, this is
Radiant's
remember back in the draft when I was talking about the Gyrocopter and how he normally scales in this really lopsided, like, stair-steppy sort of pattern where it comes in threes. 3 points in time in the game he's going to be really good, and then 3 points in time in the game he's going to be very difficult to use effectively. We're probably not going to see that. We're probably going to see him just do a straight linear scaling because he's so far ahead. He's so far ahead that he does not have to worry about the traditional building problems that hero has. In terms of levels, I mean, he's got 5 kills. And his only death was when he dove the tier 2 alone to try and kill a Lich. Magic Missile is going to come out. Thunderclap is there as well. That is going to be an additional kill going the way of Ice Mike, who's now 2 and 2 with 4 assists. Hero level, the Gyrocopter is sitting at 8. In fact, the hero levels are very, very close in this game, considering how much the map control is going in the way of Nyx Assassin. Vanasoyan is going to go down, and the Lion is going to be thrown up as well. These are magic immune aspects of the stun, not going to be effective, although it is going to go out onto less. Really just more of a desperation panic move than anything. He is, as they say, panicking. Here we go. Ush is going to be blocked in, and he might be taken down by CSO, but he's got the Rocket Barrage. He's trying to do anything he can. The call down is there as well. He's going to walk away with 31 health, and there's going to be the nuke. Ush once again going down, getting a little bit too aggressive instead of sitting in the farming position. But while he's dying, the rest of his team is down here in the bottom lane. Well, not the rest of his team, because some of his team is sitting in the mid lane farming. The rest of his team
Radiant's bottom tower
clearly
is
just
under
very
attack.
comfortably taking down towers. They're going to have a tier 2 at 12 minutes, it looks like. Ice Mike moving in. There's going to be the Curse of the Silent moving out. Ice Mike does not have Primal Split because he used it in that last engagement. He is going to be backing out.
Dire's
And another smoke is going to be purchased. I think that is the last smoke available for the Nyx Assassins for a little while. So once they use that, that's actually going to be at least a little bit nice for No Earthspirit. This ward should be known. It was dropped right in front of them. Yeah, Glacius sees what's going on. Drops his sentry. They're going to counter ward it. Give actually the 50 gold to Silencer just to try to help him catch up. Remember, this is a farming Silencer with treads and parts of a wand at 12 minutes. Farming Silencer. Up against what the equivalent would be, I guess it would be that farming Gyrocopter who has an Ogre Club and an Aquila and a Bracer and face boots and a full wand. You know, Ike's Mike as the offlaner sitting on top of full blink dagger, whereas CSO sitting on top of face boots. I mean, it's very difficult if you're Banner to think about coming back in this game. They're going to hang out. They're going to lose Roshan now as well, which is, if nothing else, a gold disadvantage that they really don't need at this moment, but also the fact that they're not going to be able to take team fights until that Aegis is gone. With Ush doing what he's been doing, there's going to be a swap coming out from Lust, and yep, Alexis is going to be going down. The silence goes out, but everything that they needed to get out got out first before that silence. The Lich ulti is bouncing around one day at a time, walking around with basically nothing left. Ush is going to be taking a lot of damage, but he will not be going down right now. He does have the Aegis as well, so he's going to be a lot more aggressive than he really needs to be. Throwing out that Rocket Barrage and getting ready one day at a time. Now having healed up a little bit, he's going to throw out the Magic Missile. He's also going to throw out the Negative Armor. The Aspects coming around from the Tie Ground, along with the rest of the Nyx Assassin's team. They just did a little roundabout, taking the Scenic route back into this fight, and there's the GG call. 13-minute GG call. Nyx Assassins dominating tonight, really on their play. There's nothing else to say, man. They just wrecked it, and this is one of the highest performing teams here at CEVO.